Coming up, he's a leader on and off the field.
I just have a passion and desire, and I know that deep down, I have a reason to be playing football.
The discipline and determination that fueled Cherokee Nation citizen Mason Fine through another record-breaking football season as one of the top 5 high school quarterbacks in the country. And a different kind of Friday night lights.
Dad would always go down the creek with some of his buddies, and they would bring back stringers of fish, and it's something that we always wanted to do until we were old enough and Dad could trust us. He'd always told us that if you can gig anything with this, then you'll be a good gigger.
We go hunting for crawdads in Cherokee country and learn about gigging the old-fashioned way. And she's the playwright behind Nanyehi, the story of Nancy Ward. But Cherokee Nation citizen Becky Hobbs' multifaceted music career has a story of its own.
Alabama has recorded 3 of my songs. Conway Twitty had a #1 with I Want to Know You Before We Make Love. George Jones and Loretta Lynn, Glenn Campbell and Emmylou Harris, quite a few country artists.
The Cherokees.
A thriving American Indian tribe.
Our history.
Our culture. Our people.
Our future.
The principles of a historic nation.
Sewn into the fabric of a modern world.
Hundreds of thousands strong. Learning, growing,
Succeeding.
And stood fast.
In the past, we have persevered through struggle.
but the future is ours to write.
Osiyo.
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 These are the voices of the Cherokee people.
I'm Principal Chief Bill John Baker. Osiyo, and welcome to the Cherokee Nation. We're so proud to share our stories with you. Wado.
Osiyo, it's how we say hello in Cherokee. In this episode, we take you from the football field to the stage to a creek in rural Oklahoma and introduce you to 3 unique Cherokee Nation citizens. Mason Fine is a record-setting quarterback who grew up here in Locust Grove, Oklahoma. We caught up with him in his last year of high school, just before he became the starting quarterback at the University of North Texas.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for these Pirates? Would you stand up and shout for Class 3A number 2, Locust Grove Pirates! And for your Locust Grove Pirates, your team captain will be number 9, Mason Fine.
My name is Mason Fine, and I am the quarterback for the Locust Grove Pirates. Started getting interested in football when I was probably in 4th grade. Then I didn't start realizing that I loved football is when, after that 4th grade season of playing over in the youth football at Telequal, it was probably that summer after that season is where I started becoming a quarterback, throwing the football and going to camps. And most kids don't like going to camps and maybe not putting in work or learning, but I loved learning the game of football, and becoming a better player is probably when I just realized that I want to be the best player I can be.
He's the best high school quarterback I've ever seen, and I've been doing this for 24 years now. Mace is just special because a lot of quarterbacks can throw, a lot of quarterbacks can run. He can do both those, but he doesn't make mistakes, and he studies the game so much. His 5,000 yards last year was impressive because no high school quarterback had ever thrown for 4,000 in Oklahoma, and he threw for 5,000. But he threw for 71 touchdowns. And it was a new state record. It was almost a national record, everything. But he only threw 6 interceptions with that. But that to me is what is impressive about Mason as a football player. Just he doesn't make mistakes in the way he runs an offense.
You know, when he was growing up, you know, throwing the football around out in the yard, you never really expected. You just want him to be able to throw the ball well, and you know, he wanted to play football, and I just wanted to be good at it. It really started taking off when his freshman year. He actually started as a receiver on the varsity squad, so he started playing early on, and we knew he kind of had a knack for throwing the ball.
We have a competitive drive, competitive nature, so I just kind of think it kind of came in his genetics. He kind of grew up with that.
I think it's just going out and being the best you can be. Go 100% at something, you know, why do it 50%? You know, now that I'm still in high school and I'm a quarterback, and it's just, I want to go out there and be the best quarterback I can be for my team. And if that's putting in film, then I watch film. If that's staying late and throwing with the receivers, then that's what it takes. But I think that comes from when I was younger. My parents just raised me to go out there and try my hardest. And I think that brings out the competitive nature. And then now I just want to be the best player out there.
In this past year, his junior year just kind of just blew up. We just, you know, we never expected the records and the awards that kind of came along with it, and the media attention that came with it. And, you know, I think the first major one was probably the Gatorade Oklahoma Player of the Year, and that was just, we're just astonished, you know. And then the Channel 8 Ford Award came along, and we had then the Tulsa World. He got Tulsa World Player of the Year. Oklahoma City, he got Offensive Player of the Year with them, and then and even some of the national media, Max Preps. I mean, he got the small schools All-American, you know.
You know, I like to think about, there was a recruiter that came by and was like, how many yards are you gonna throw for this year? I'm like, as many as it takes to win a state championship. Yes, there's been several coaches and scouts and people from around here that have told me, oh, you're a good quarterback, but you're a little bit too small to play big Division I football. But when I've gotten older, I don't really listen to them because I realize that there will be a school that takes a chance on my size. When people tell me I'm too short or too small, I just kind of, now I brush it off. And I'm just like, all right, well, one day I'll prove you wrong. You know, people say me and her's pretty close, me and my sister. She's 11, and you know, we fight like every other sibling. Me and her, she kind of has the same attitude as me. She cares about academics already, and we'll go out and play softball. I know I'll throw her, we'll play catch and just go out there. You know, maybe one day with me tutoring her and with basketball and softball, maybe she'll be a better athlete than me. It'd be really nice to see my sister go on and do better than me. They ask me, you know, what race are you? I'm Indian, you know, I'm Cherokee, and I like to express my heritage. It makes the Cherokee people look good too when they see how good I'm doing, and I say it with confidence. I love being Cherokee. It's just a really neat thing. Not a whole lot of people are, and I don't take it for granted, and I really embrace it. You know, football, I won't be there for the rest of my life. I mean, there's gonna be one day where I'm not gonna be able to play football, so I'd like to have that education to draw back on. And my parents have installed that into me, that academics is a really big thing. And now I've grown up, I've understood that, and I take it very seriously. I'm a 4.0 GPA student, and I've been class president the past 4 years.
I just hope to see that he has his dreams and desire to go on and play major in college football. He understands that the end goal is to go and get the education, and that way you take the education, get that degree, and go get you a job, and ultimately just be successful in life.
As a kid, my dream's always been to play Division I college. If I go to the right school and I have a good coach that, you know, gets me ready, past college and advance for the NFL, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna let my dream die. I'm always gonna pursue and have passion for that dream. And I'm not gonna let it slip through my hands if I have an opportunity. I don't think there's any chance of me getting burned out on football. The past 6 years, it's been 24/7, 365 days. And I'm still in love with it. I was stepping on the first time in 4th grade. I just have a passion and desire, and I know that deep down, I have a reason to be playing football. I'm not gonna let my ability go to waste. When I'm older, when I'm 50 years old, I will still love football. I will go to the games. I will play and catch with other kids, try to make them better. I'll probably be coaching somewhere. I just don't think that desire and that passion will ever leave. I think I'll always be in love with football.
As the fall season takes hold of Cherokee country, a favorite summer pastime must come to an end: crawdad hunting. But before all of the crawdads could hide away for the winter, we caught up with one family who's been gigging for crawdads for generations.
There's several ways to catch crawdads. Some of them are by seine, some of them by net, some of them by trapping them, but we have always just used crawdad gigs. You know, a crawdad gig is a metal spear with a wood handle, and we would go down, but most of the time we would go at night, and because the crawdads come out at night, the feed.
Got him.
In my pastime, I love to forage. and I forge fish gigs and crawdad gigs, and I make the whole thing, the head that you spear the crawdad with or the fish with, and then I also make the poles. And growing up, it's something that my dad loved doing. In the summertime, he would come home and he'd say, "Guys, y'all want to go down the creek?" And we never said no. So it was always a treat for us to go down the creek with him and go gig some fish or chase crawdads or whatever. And sometimes it was a means to sustenance for us. But we'd have a fish fry, and it itself brought a lot of family times, family get-togethers, and a lot of good times. A lot of times that I'll never forget. My dad was Hastings Shade. Growing up, we were on the creek a lot. He liked to gig, fish, and noodle, and everybody that wanted to go get fish would come by. And Dad was eager to help everybody, to go with anybody in time. Dad would always go down the creek with some of his buddies, and they would bring back stringers of fish, and it's something that we always wanted to do until we were old enough and Dad could trust us. We would go with him. And one of the first things that, he had a big gig, and we wanted one just like his, but he made us use a little single prong gig with a cane pole on it. And he'd always told us that if you can gig anything with this, then you'll be a good gigger. But half of my dad was my mom. Mom is, and again, she's like my dad. She's very fluent Cherokee. She has her master's in education, her master's in counseling. Yeah, she is the one who showed me the proper way to cook crawdads, and just to make sure that you don't overcook them or undercook them. A big part of us and the health of us has been Mom and her cooking and her meals. It's a big part of our family. The creek has been a big part of our life. I've grown up on this creek here, and being a part of that creek is, I'm 52 years old, and ever since I was able to walk, we've gone swimming, and just summer times, and just family cookouts. It's always been associated with the creek down there. I pass that on to my kids. We go down to this very day. Just a few days ago, we went and got some crawdads. My two youngest, Dustin and Katie, my two youngest ones went with me the other night, and we got a mess. And it's just time spent with them that I know that when they grow up, that one of these days they're gonna leave and have their families of their own. And I hope that they bring their family back, and hopefully that I'm alive so that I can still teach them. 5 years ago, my dad passed away. There was that summer, he had made sure that the three boys, my brothers, we all got out here, and he wanted to make sure that we made a crawdad gig, a fish gig. He just made sure that we knew what we were doing as far as the craft that he knew that he wanted to teach us. And he was out here, we would make a mistake, he would say, "No, you need to do it this way and that way." And sometimes, I even catch myself talking to him. It just, when I feel that there's something that I need to say out loud, or something that I need to address, I'll just say, "Dad, I just need your help right now. What can I do?" Because when he was here, that was what we used to do. In his words and wisdom, and in his Cherokee knowledge, he would say, this might happen, but just let it pass, and everything will be all right. And that was his favorite. That was his favorite quote, was "It'll be all right. Just give it a little time. It'll be all right." So and I miss that about it. This first part of June, my son had called me and said, "Dad, there's a bunch of us down the creek, and we want to get some crawdads." I was tired, but I went back to my dad when I'd always ask my dad, "Let's go gigging." He'd say, I knew he was tired, but he'd always say, "All right, let's go." So I thought about that time, and I said, "All right, I'll be down there in a few minutes. Let me get the lights together and the gigs together." Skylar Heaton was one of them, and that night we had a good time. We got about a half-a-gallon bucket full of crawdads, and I got to tell my stories about the area where we went gigging, and the kids really enjoyed that. And they said, they call me Coach Shade. Said, "Coach Shade, can we do this again next week?" And I said, "Well, how about next Tuesday night, or maybe Wednesday?" And we had made plans to come back that next week. And my Dustin's friend, Skylar, had died in an accident that next Monday, which really I did it for him, because being my son's best friend, I thought, well, let me introduce him to something that he may not have ever seen. And he went home and told his mom and dad that, man, he said, man, I had the best time. And I asked him what he did, and he said, I went crawdad gigging with Coach Shade and Dustin. So that's something that, you know, I'll remember. And even when I go back to this very day, you know, he's, you know, that he's always on my mind, that I got to show somebody something that, you know, that we liked. And it's all about crawdads.
In 1762, 3 Cherokee leaders were invited to London to meet with King George III. The destructive 3-year-long Cherokee-Anglo War had ended in the old Cherokee Nation, and the trip would reaffirm the peace recently negotiated. The voyage took a month from Hampton, Virginia to Plymouth, England, where they arrived on June 16, 1762. From the moment their ship arrived in port, the chiefs were treated as international celebrities. People even wrote songs about them. And as Gilcrease Museum historian and research director Dwayne King tells us, for 2 months, the press followed their every move.
The press reported their every move, their social calendars, and were able to reconstruct their activities almost on a day-to-day basis for a 2-month period during their time in London.
Sometimes thousands of people lined up to see the delegation as they were entertained by political leaders and escorted to sites like the Exeter Cathedral and Vauxhall Gardens. Some of the best reminders of the international diplomatic relations between the Cherokee Nation and Great Britain can be found in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the Gilcrease Museum, including the original oil portraits of 2 of the Cherokee diplomats.
Jalagi Iniwanihi. Let's talk Cherokee. First phrase in English. Do you understand? Holkas. Do you understand? Holkas. I do understand. Kolega. I do understand. Kolega. I do not understand. Kla yi kolega. I do not understand. Kla yi kolega.
Historically, Nancy Ward is known as a beloved woman of the Cherokees. In fact, her story has made it to the stage, and one of the playwrights behind her story is a Nancy Ward descendant. Becky Hobbs is also an inductee into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame.
I think we're going to rock it a little bit. Do y'all mind? You know, I've written over 2,000 songs, and I've written way more songs than I will ever in this life have an outlet for. Before I could talk. I'm Becky Hobbs. I'm a singer, songwriter, musician, entertainer, and now playwright. I grew up in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, and started playing the piano when I was 9 years old. I had an older sister. When we got home from school, since my mom was gone at work, we'd fight over who got to practice the piano. And we'd end up hovering over the piano bench and hitting each other with our butts. And then we'd start hitting each other with the Baptist hymnal. And she was twice my size, but I always won. So I got to practice more than she did. I just thought back then that anybody could write a song. The songs were there in my head, and I just would sit down and work on them and play them. When I was 15 years old, I started what has now been documented as the first all-female rock band in the state of Oklahoma. A radio station in Tulsa had an all-girl band contest. That band was called the Surprise Package, and we played out of the Tulsa area for a couple of years. I was invited to join a band called Swamp Fox in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which was all guys. And I thought, you know what, it's time to start playing with the boys. Louis Anderson and I drove our old jalopies out to Los Angeles, California, and that's when I really started getting serious in the music business. Jeff Wald was married to Helen Reddy, And Helen at the time was one of the hottest female artists on the pop charts. So he took some of my songs to Helen Reddy, and I got a Helen Reddy cut in 1974. That was my first major recording. Alabama has recorded 3 of my songs. Probably my biggest song of all, Angels Among Us. Conway Twitty had a #1 with I Want to Know You Before We Make Love. George Jones and Loretta Lynn, Glenn Campbell and Emmylou Harris, quite a few country artists. I only write a song if it keeps knocking and says, you've got to write me. If I have a great idea and it has to be written, then I pay attention to it and I'll write it. Which is what happened with I'll Take 2 Tens.
Oklahoma born and Oklahoma raised.
Sean Crittenden sent me an email and said, I have a great title. You know, he's a fellow Cherokee Nation citizen. He's a tribal councilman now. And he sent me the title, I'll Take 2 Tens, you can keep the 20. We wrote it in a way that it's telling it like it is. Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill, and Andrew Jackson was responsible for the Trail of Tears. This is what he did, and you know, if you're gonna give me change, you know, give me 2 tens. I don't wanna have anything to do with the 20. Because that man on the bill, he ain't worth a penny, so I'll take 2 tens, and you can keep the 20. I'm thrilled about being one of the newest inductees into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. It's been very important to me to come back and forth to Oklahoma and to do what I can for the Cherokee Nation and for Oklahoma music. I feel like no matter where I've gone in the world, I've taken a little bit of Oklahoma with me. I feel like it's probably all the different things I've done in my life and the years and years of making music and writing songs and being out there entertaining. And then, of course, co-writing Nanyehi. I'm a 5th great-granddaughter of Nanyehi, Nancy Ward, beloved woman of the Cherokee. My mom told me this all my life. She'd always say, you know, Becca, you're a direct descendant of Nancy Ward, and then she told me the story about Nancy Ward. Even back then, I knew someday that I wanted to honor Nancy Ward in some way, and I thought I would be recording an album, you know, of songs. I was performing in Bartlesville at the Bartlesville Centennial celebration back in 2007, and I met Nick Sweet. After the show, he came up to me and he said, you know, I know who Nancy Ward is. And we discussed, gosh, let's write a musical. The musical is about Nancy Ward's life. It starts at her birth, and there's some childhood scenes. Her cousin was dragging canoe, who, you know, later became a powerful war chief. And then here's Nanyehi, Nancy Ward, who took the path of peace. So therefore, we have the conflict in the musical. Nanyehi has a big cast. We will probably have a cast of around 35 this year. I must have been crazy because it is a whole different animal. This musical is something that I was meant to do, and I had no idea when I was starting the little all-girl band when I was 15 years old that it would lead me to this. I feel that our ancestors want this to happen, and sometimes the energy is so much that it either excites me so much or it's exhausting at times. But I feel like it is my mission to bring Nancy Ward's story to today's world.
We hope you enjoyed our show. And remember, you can always watch entire episodes and share your favorite stories online at Osio.tv. There is no Cherokee word for goodbye because we know we'll see you again. So until next time, Wado.
It's your turn to visit the Cherokee Nation and explore 66,000 acres of lush Oklahoma countryside, scenic rivers and lakes, and engaging cultural attractions, like the John Ross Museum and Cemetery in Park Hill. The museum is set in a former rural schoolhouse built in 1913 and highlights the life and legacy of the influential Cherokee chief John Ross. Ross was principal chief of the Cherokee Nation for nearly 40 years during one of the most tumultuous and impactful times in its history. Born in 1790, Ross was a native of the old Cherokee Nation in what is now Georgia. He rose to prominence at a young age, and by 1827, Ross had served his nation as a delegate to Washington, D.C., as a veteran of the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, and as president of the Cherokee National Committee. In 1828, John Ross was elected principal chief of the Cherokee Nation for the first of many terms. Ross fought tirelessly against President Andrew Jackson's Indian removal policy, determined to protect the Cherokee homelands. Ultimately, Ross was unsuccessful in preventing the devastation that was the Trail of Tears. So he led the Cherokees to the new Indian Territory, where they would rebuild their government with Chief Ross at the helm. Ross and his family settled in Park Hill, Indian Territory, near present-day Tahlequah, Oklahoma. After a lifetime of working to preserve the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation, Chief John Ross died in Washington, D.C. in 1866, campaigning for his people and his nation until the very end. He is buried in the Ross Cemetery in Park Hill, situated just behind the John Ross Museum. The cemetery is on the National Register of Historic Places and is the burial grounds for many in the Ross family, important Cherokee delegates, and survivors of the Trail of Tears. In addition to highlighting the life and legacy of Chief John Ross, the museum houses exhibits and interactive displays on the Trail of Tears, Civil War, Cherokee Golden Age, and Cherokee Nation's passion for the education of its people. The museum also has a gift shop and research area. To plan your visit to the museum, go to visitcherokenation.com.
In the Cherokee Nation, news happens every day.
Cherokee Nation's economic impact on the state of Oklahoma now exceeds $2 billion.
The dollars that are generated here are creating jobs.
It benefits everyone. Creating headlines.
The new 469,000 square foot health facility is the result of the largest joint venture agreement ever.
For the people of the Cherokee Nation, and it'll impact them for generations to come.
Creating opportunities.
Cherokee Nation employees can now take 8 weeks of paid maternity leave.
We have lots of young mothers and young families, and this is something that's very exciting.
This year, the tribe awarded $5 million to superintendents from about 100 public school districts.
When it comes to education, we're all in it together.
Creating a better place to call home.
The Wilma P. Mankeller Health Center in Stillwell, Oklahoma, nearly doubled in size.
That this absolutely will make a tremendous impact on the quality of life.
It's going to provide more jobs.
For more Cherokee Nation news, visit onadiskoe.com.